Let's talk about the books I hauled in the month of August. This is much longer than the books I read in the month of August. Hi, readers. It's Lori. Welcome back to my channel, Books, Ink, and Paper, and welcome to the new bookshelves. This is the second cabinet of shelves, and we do have to do some trim, and my guy has to come and do the baseboards and the crown, but we're getting there. This is just the bottom part. So if you haven't weighed in already on the other video about whether or not you think I had room in this shelf for more books, let me know in the comments below. But I will be doing a shelf tour soon. I just need to rearrange some of this. I'm not quite happy with the way that it's in there now, but I also kind of just ran out of steam the day that I did it. And it was a lot carting all these books in and organizing them by the categories that I had wanted to organize them by, and then putting them all in and climbing to the top was quite an endeavor. So it will be done. So today's video is about what I hauled in the month of August, as I said, and we're going to start with the physical books that I hauled because I guess let's just start with the library books I hauled because I'm still using my library and I'm still planning to do that going forward. One of these in particular I've talked about a lot, and I still have not freaking read it. The physical copy is currently sitting at my library. I have not had a chance to go out there. It's the library that's farthest away. It's where we used to live. It's also just today is terrible rain, and we've just had a lot of things, so I haven't been able to go. And they keep calling me and saying, hey, this book's still on the shelf. I just feel like I need to call them and say it's not going to happen right now. But that is Sandwich by Catherine Newman. I've talked about it multiple times. You're probably sitting there saying, if you're a frequent watcher, oh my God, why can't you just read this book? And I don't know the answer to that, except that I can't seem to do it. So, and it's perfect timing because it's like a woman in a cabin on the lake with her family and, kind of going through her own midlife crises or awareness or reflection or something. But I had it again on ebook and it went back. I did also borrow an audiobook, Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I intended to try to listen to that since I had listened to and read Just for the Summer not long ago, but I just couldn't make it work either. It was another case of all of them coming in at the same time. And so the times that they came in, it was just not convenient for me to do that, but I would still like to read that one. I also have Yours Truly in my collection. It was one of my free books, I think book of the year or something, but I could read that. I have a physical copy of that, but I did not get to that. Also borrowed from the library an audio of Winnie the Pooh and the collection of stories that A.A. Milne wrote about Winnie the Pooh. And I listened to that with my new granddaughter as we rocked in her little rocking chair in her room. And we did not get far in, but we listened to a good bit of it. And I went ahead and sent it back because it's not in high demand. And I didn't want to keep it away from somebody else who might want it this summer. But I plan to go back and pick up where we left off, which was essentially we were just getting introduced to Piglet. And but she seemed to like Winnie the Pooh pretty much, and that will definitely be an ongoing project for us. Her mother wants to read her 1,000 books before kindergarten. That's a lot of books. So we'll see how we can all partner to make that happen. But that's the goal, is 1,000 books before kindergarten. Another one I borrowed from Everand is The One by John Mars, and I started that. I have not picked it back up. I started it one day when I thought perhaps I needed a break from the audio that I was listening to, which I'll tell you about in a minute. It was one that my daughter had read not long ago and enjoyed it. And we were talking about the fact that there's a series now streaming that's called The One, and it's based on this book, although she says it's very different than the book is. But I started it, I enjoyed it, but again, I was in that I can't focus reading weird slumpy place, and I couldn't really focus on it for long, but I still have it, and I do plan to finish it. I'm just not sure when. And then I bought on Libro.fm Worst Case Scenario by TJ Newman. The reason I made this purchase was because I already owned Drowning and Falling by the same author, and I wanted to add this one to the collection as well. And I did find that listening to those was really quite exciting. And I do like the narrator, who is Joe Morton, and I liked the way that they did this production. Worst Case Scenario is about a plane crash, but it goes beyond that plot point to the nuclear power plant that is damaged as a result of the plane crash. So it's much less about the plane this time and much more about a nuclear power plant, which I found to be very interesting and a little surprising. But anyway, I enjoyed it, and I will talk to you more about that when I do my reading wrap up for the month of September, because I just finished it as I'm filming this today. I was also asked if I would like some ARCs this month, which surprised me. So the first one was Frida McFadden's The Boyfriend. I was sent an email asking if I would read it and review it. It comes out in October on the 1st, and I said that I would, and I am reading that currently. I will tell you more about how I feel about it soon. And of course, I'll have a review because I always do one for NetGalley on Goodreads and Storygraph now. But this one is about a woman and a boy, and it's a thriller, and it's Frida McFadden. So there's lots of twists and turns and deception. And I'm reading it on Kindle. And yeah, we'll see how I feel about it soon. And then another one was sent to me, which is called This Girl's a Killer by Emma C. Wells, which comes out on October 24th. And Cordelia Black, who is the main character in this thriller novel, loves three things. She loves her family, which is her best friend, Diane, and her goddaughter. So she doesn't apparently have any other family around. She loves her hairdresser, which is, love it. And she loves to kill bad men. So she's a pharmaceutical rep by day, which, means she's got to kind of, step up her game. I have some friends who are pharmaceutical reps, which is why I agreed to read this one for an honest review. And then she's finding difficult men and offing them in some way. This is billed as mystery, thriller, and horror. So yeah, it might be pretty dark. Her killings might be pretty detailed. We'll see. And this is this author's debut novel. So I'm happy to review this. And I really like this cover. And so far, it's got some pretty hefty reviews and some good ratings. So we'll see. And it's about 432 pages, it says. So there's those two from NetGalley, which I was excited about. They were unsolicited by me, and I had not heard of This Girl's a Killer. I had heard of Frida McFadden before, and I have read some other books by Frida McFadden. I have had some mixed experiences with her, so we'll see how this one goes. Then I played on my Kindle a little bit, and I found a few things that were exciting to me and very cheap. So the first one is one that I found while I was staying at my daughter's, and it just popped up in This Is a Good Read for You category in an email, and it's called Orleans Avenue by Robin. It's either Robin Mayle or Male. This is currently on Kindle Unlimited, but I think I bought it for like 99 cents. Here's the reason I bought Orleans Avenue. This is book one in the Remy Fontaine series, and I bought Orleans Avenue because my daughter lives on Orleans Avenue in New Orleans. And so this book is set in New Orleans in southern Louisiana. And Orleans Avenue is a large, long avenue, and it connects from a pretty lengthy from here to there. Someone asked me the other day when I was talking about New Orleans and where she lives, why it's called New Orleans, or why we pronounce it New Orleans for those of us who live down here, but why that's called Orleans Avenue. And I don't know the answer to that, except it is. There are people who say New Orleans for sure, but most people who live down here do not. So there you go. That's your conundrum and your lesson for the day, I guess. But anyway, this is about a Louisiana Bureau of Investigation employee whose name is Remy Fontaine, obviously, book number 1 of the Remy Fontaine thriller series. And Remy has been investigating a case for a while, and it's been really, really challenging for her. She is trying to find leads and trying to find witnesses. And so what first happens is a woman is found hanging from her tree in her backyard, and there's a note taped to her stomach that says, "Stop looking." She was one of the key witnesses in this investigation of a murder that Remy believes was carried out by Hector Salazar, but she cannot find enough information yet to convict. And so then a second witness is found stabbed in their jail cell. So Remy's losing witnesses one by one and really has to try to hurry up and figure out how she can indict Hector. So this was originally published as Last Seen, and I'm not sure why it was republished. So some of you may have already read this on a different title, but for me, this is new to me, and I'm excited about it. I also purchased Oh Pioneers, which was free. I had the opportunity to go to the BookTube Besties retreat again this year. So that's my second time this year, and I had a lovely time. This is hosted, if you didn't know, by Sarah at Sarah's Nightstand, Lindsay at Lindsay's Little Library, Krista at Books and Jams, and Amanda at The Middle Shelf. And this BookTube retreat, which is about 2 days long, typically has a number of activities that we partake in, and a lot of sprints and a lot of reading and sharing books. And one of the books that was shared by Melissa at Libraries and Labradors was a book called Oh Pioneers, which is an older classic book by Willa Cather. And I have always wanted to read Oh Pioneers and just haven't. And I recently, another booktuber friend did a read along book club book thing with her subscribers. And I thought then, oh, I might want to do this. And I just didn't. So when Melissa said Oh Pioneers was a book she really recommended and wanted to press into our hands, it also turned out that it was free on Kindle. So I picked it up. Oh Pioneers is a trilogy, and this is the Prairie trilogy. So this is, again, book 1. I think you should read them in order. I feel like that's probably a good idea. The second book is called The Song of the Lark, and the third book is called My Antonia, I think. It's not Antonio, right? It's Antonia. Anyway, this is about the life of Alexandra Bergson, and they immigrate from Sweden, which really appeals to me because my mother's side of my family is Swedish, and they immigrated to the United States from Sweden as well. And they moved into some kind of prairie-like farming community areas. So it's kind of very similar to that kind of story. Nevertheless, Alexandra inherits the family farm with her mother and her brothers after her father dies. And so this is the story of their learning how to cope with that and to run the farm and to succeed and eat and all those kinds of things, while also there, I think, are some romantic aspects to it. So that one will be it would probably be a good fall read. I don't know. I don't know what time of year it's set in. Maybe I'll investigate that. The Last Train to Key West by Chanel Cleaton is one that I have talked about before. I actually think I recently talked about it in my video about the books that are set with a hurricane in them. But this one has a cover that absolutely, I think, is divine. I have also been looking at Chanel Cleaton's novels for a while and would love to get to one. So when this one came out and it was like $1 or $2, I got it as well. So The Last Train to Key West is indeed set in Key West, which is also a place that I'm fascinated by. And it is being billed as a riveting summer read, which is why I'd like to try to get to this before we actually transfer into fall, but we'll see, because I have a pretty robust pile of possibilities for August. Nevertheless, I like a book that's set in a small period of time too. Like I really always appreciate those, even books that are set in one day. I really like them. For some reason, I think they just move really, really quickly, and I'm just inspired by the plots and want to finish. This book is about 3 women who find themselves on Key West as a hurricane is approaching on Labor Day in 1935. And they are all kind of in a bit of a flux. So one of them is Helen, and Helen lives on Key West, and she is trying to get away and figure out how she can do that. Then there's Mirta Perez, who is newly married to a man she met and married in Havana. And she's discovering on their honeymoon on Key West that perhaps this man's life is a little bit shadier than she realized. And then there's Elizabeth, whose family has lost all of their wealth, and she's scrambling to try to find out, I guess, where she can make some connections or how she can solve this challenge that they're experiencing. And the synopsis says that she discovers some great war prisoner camps or something, which I'm not sure how that's going to renew their wealth. It was released in 2020, in the summer of 2020, and it's been on my list for a while, and I think this will be great. And it's not terribly long. And again, I read pretty quick on Kindle, so I'm happy about that because I love to get books done quickly, especially now since I've been in a bit of a slump. And the last one I got is also on Kindle Unlimited at the moment, but I purchased it for a very low price. And this is The House of Lost Secrets by Anstey Harris. And this one is set in Scotland. So I really love a book set in Scotland. Jo Wildling goes to visit her friend, Rachel, who is a part of the Willoughby family, and they have this mansion over there, and it's on the beach, so there's the sea and sea air. And so Jo has often been enamored by Rachel's brother Tristan, so she has a bit of a crush on him. She goes for the weekend to be with her friend Rachel, and Rachel tells her something that she's been not telling her for a really, really long time, which is a huge betrayal. And so now Jo has to come to terms with this new information that she's discovered and whether or not she can forgive, I guess, Rachel or the people that are involved. So it's being billed as a house full of memories, a final summer, but is she ready to know the truth? That was enough for me. I think it sounds great. And now we're to the physical copies that I have. So right after the No Buy Challenge ended, on the 16th of August, I ordered my Book of the Month Club selections for the month of August, but I ended up getting two that I was really highly anticipating. So one of them is The Wedding People by Alison Esbach. And I am super excited that I got this. However, let me just say, the synopsis says that Phoebe Stone arrives at the Cornwall Inn with a green dress and gold heels. And at the Cornwall Inn is also a wedding that is about to happen. And she's mistaken for one of the wedding guests. And then she meets the bride and she discusses her plan with the bride. That's all I knew based on the synopsis. I had a book chat set up with this author on BNN book chats, Barnes & Noble book chats that are free each month, maybe sometimes a couple times a month. And the first thing the author did was say what her plan, what Phoebe's plan was or is, and I was a bit spoiled by that. So I'm kind of sad that I know what is going to happen, but also I'm fine with it still. I did really want to read this, and I'm still going to do that. And I'd like to get to it sooner than later, but it's interesting. It was, I guess she thought everybody knew. Probably everybody does know, just not me. It just says that it makes it much more surprising when the two women can't stop confiding in each other. And I guess if you look at the synopsis, it does suggest what might be happening, but I didn't get it. I didn't get it the first time. So maybe I was just not reading it carefully. And then I also got Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. He's an auto buy for me. And this one is very bright. And this one I've talked about in my anticipated reads as well, because this is about two boys, one named Ethan and his friend Billy. And they are camping in the yard in a little tent in their backyard, as many of us have probably done as children. And when Ethan wakes up, Billy is missing and they don't know what happened to Billy. And I think we go into years later when he's an adult, 30 years later, he returns to his hometown and some things start happening that would suggest that someone is sending him some messages. So Middle of the Night. Want to get to that sooner than later too. I ordered these two. They were on sale and I had just finished A Fatal Grace, or was about to finish A Fatal Grace. So I went ahead and pre-ordered book 3 and book 4. So book 3, The Cruelest Month, is set at Easter. So the one I just finished was set at Christmas. And so Easter egg on the cover, and this one is villagers are celebrating Easter with a seance and somebody ends up dead. And then A Rule Against Murder is the fourth book in this series, and this one is not necessarily saying what season it is, but Inspector Gamache and his wife are celebrating their anniversary at this kind of fancy place, and some surprising guests turn up, a terrible storm occurs, and there's a dead body in its wake. So, yes, please. Carrying on with the Louise Pennies, really like them a lot. Thanks for watching, readers. Thanks for listening to the synopses of the books that I am really excited about and that I have purchased after my No Buy Challenge. That was a lot, I know. My partner said that was a lot, and it was. But I feel good about all of them, and there were good connective reasons why I decided to get each of them as well. And I'm really enjoying reading on my Kindle, even though I keep sort of stuffing it full of other titles. So it's time for me to, keep reading, keep reading, keep reading. I'm hoping that September is a stellar reading month. So join me in that hope. Thanks again for watching. Thanks for your comments. Let me know if any of these are books that you have read or want to read. And as always, happy reading. Bye.